Hi folks, in today's lesson we're going to be learning about the tangent ratio. This is a video that goes alongside two other videos, the sine ratio and the cosine ratio. We're going to be using the tangent ratio today to be finding a side, so let's crack on and get this job done. Trigonometry means three-angled measure, and we're dealing with angles in triangles. And the triangles we are looking at are going to be right-angled triangles, and we'll be given one length and one angle in the triangle, and we're trying to find the length of one of the other sides. Here is a right-angled triangle with one of the angles marked in at C. Imagine the angle were an eye, and the eye of the angle always looks at the opposite side. The right angle always looks onto the hypotenuse, and the third side we call the adjacent. It's really important you know how to label the three sides of the right angle triangle, either opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Here's another example. There's the angle marked in at A. Imagine that was an eye. The eye looks out at the opposite side. The right angle looks onto the hypotenuse, and the third side is the adjacent. In this example, we've got the angle marked in at C, and we've got the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse labelled. Tangent is the ratio of the opposite side to the adjacent side. So if we have those values marked in, then the tangent of angle C will be the opposite 11 divided by the adjacent 19. In this example, we have the angle marked in at A and our sides labelled. We have the values marked in of 25 centimetres and 16 centimetres, and the tangent of angle A will be the opposite 25 divided by the adjacent 16. Once we have our tan ratio, how do we find the angle that is equal to? The first thing we write is x equals inverse tan of 3/5. And we write inverse tan as tan to the power of -1. Which buttons therefore do we press on our calculator? Well, the first button we press is the shift button, and that's highlighted yellow on the calculator. Then we press the tan button, and the tan button is over there on the right hand side. So that's inverse tan or shift tan. Now we input the fraction 3/5, so that's 3 divided by 5. We then close bracket. That's really important that we press the close bracket symbol, equals, and that should give us 30.9637, which we would round off to 1 decimal place. And in example 2, where tan x equals 5/3, remember we write x equals shift tan or inverse tan, but we write it as tan to the -1 of 5/3. And the buttons we press, the shift button, there it is, highlighted, the tan button, and then 5 divided by 3. Importantly, we close the bracket and press equals, and we should get 59.0632, which we round off to 1 decimal place. Okay, so here in example 3, we know how to find the ratio. We now know how to input the ratio into our calculator, put the two things together, and let's find this angle. The angle x looks at 9 centimetres the opposite side, and 12 centimetres is the adjacent. So tan x is opposite over adjacent, that's 9/12. We want to find x, so we write inverse tan of 9/12, put that into our calculators, and round off to 1 decimal place. In example 4, let's work out where the opposite is, 32 centimetres. So 20 centimetres is the adjacent. Tan x is opposite over adjacent. That's 32 divided by 20. X equals inverse tan of 32 over 20. Put that into our calculators and round off to 1 decimal place. And again, in example 5, identify the opposite. There's the hypotenuse, so 10.4 must be the adjacent. So tan x is opposite over adjacent, 6.3 over 10.4. X equals inverse tan of 6.3 over 10.4. Put that in our calculators and round off to 1 decimal place. So I hope you're ready to put all this into a recap. Tangent is a ratio of the opposite side to the adjacent. The eye of the angle looks at the opposite side, the right angle looks at the hypotenuse, and the adjacent is the third side. So tan C equals opposite over adjacent. If we wish to convert from the ratio to find the angle, we press the Shift tan buttons. We would write that as tan to the -1, which we pronounce as inverse tan, and it's usual to round angles off to 1 decimal place. And if there's anything about this you haven't understood, just watch the video back. If you have understood it, that's great, because that's the job done.